Hey everybody, well, welcome back to our ThinkScript class. My name is Mike Fairburn. It's great to be here with you. Folks, it is Friday. You made it through the end of the week. The VIX is up. No surprise. That's what tends to happen when we get a lot of volatility in the market. And within this class, we have a lot of opportunities to take a look at really a number of different sort of indicators out there, different conditions under a script. But we oftentimes will want to focus in on what's been happening with the market specifically. So with the market pulling back, I wanted to take a look at maybe some indicators that have been showing strength off the bottom in terms of going from those oversold conditions above and beyond that, and looking at it across a three indicator setup. So I look forward to diving on into that with you all today. Hello to you, Wiley, as well as Life in the Fast Lane. We've got JB in the chat. Great to have James on board here. Thea, how's it going? Good to have you all, folks. Any questions, comments you have, throw those in the chat so we can address those for you. But yeah, today, really wanted to focus in on that pullback in the market and say, what has really reached extreme levels in terms of maybe an overbought range, and then coming out of that range and checking that across three different indicators very quickly. It's a rare indication. It doesn't come up too much, but we want to take a look at a scan today and see what's out there. So with that, let's dive on into some disclosures to get the show on the road. All right, information here is for general information purposes only. Now, Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research. The paper money software application is for education purposes only as well. Backtesting results are hypothetical, and there is no guarantee that the same strategy implemented today would produce similar results going forward. Now, investing does involve risk, including the loss of principal. Past performance of any security strategy does not guarantee future results or success. Having said all that, let's take a look at the markets right now. You can see I've got in a couple of long-term lines drawn in here, one off the bottom and one kind of a mid-range, potentially checking possible resistance. We've had previous resistance up here at these levels. Down below, that was actually a weekly Fibonacci level of 50% on the S&P 500, 50% fib, as well as a 61.8% fib. Off of different levels. Now, I used a weekly, you'd see it on the daily as well, but I used a weekly just to pick up on those longer term levels. Because a lot of times if you get a combination or a confluence, actually, of those Fibonacci points, yeah, sometimes they can be quite interesting, and we saw that right there with the market. We actually saw, too, a candlestick pattern that was an engulfing pattern for a while, and then we engulfed again with this big move up, folks. All of this has caused a lot of volatility, but what's interesting is sometimes stocks within the S&P will reach their they can reach extreme lows, and we can get sharp reversals from that point when we see those indicators come off the bottom. Say, for example, on the RSI, when we come off the bottom there, when we're in an oversold range, which is around 30, on that RSI. Let's click on that right now and just pop it in. That can be an interesting indication. Now, this is on the market itself, but I want to talk about three, not one, not two, but three indicators that have been oversold, that have bounced up off this level. Put a scan on it, because I think it actually looks, it's very interesting in this context when you get the market dropping as much. We'll still look at other components, let's say, for example, a strong trend, a few things like that as well. But let's start off with a stock over here as we break this down, and this is actually going to be MDT. MDT is a company that, let's take it off that upper channel line too, as we've got it right there. You'll notice down here with that RSI, in fact, we'll look at the RSI in a little bit more detail as well. Does anybody, do you guys use the RSI on a regular basis? I think it is interesting, the RSI, because it does track basically its momentum over a time frame. So it's looking at price changes over a time frame. That's a 14-day period right here. If we come up top, I'm going to go ahead and show you that RSI up here, because this is one of them we're going to be looking at coming off of the oversold range and really kind of bouncing off that level. RSI, if we look at it right here, just over to the right, taking a look and reading it a little bit, going through some of the details. It's really a momentum indicator. It is used, it's a technical measure, looking at a couple of different things. It fell off there, sorry. A couple of different things. It's speed and magnitude of recent price changes. That's what makes it interesting as an indicator to follow. It's over a shorter period of time. It oscillates between 0 and 100, so it's an oscillator. 14-day period is what's typically used here. Above 70, I'll just point to this over here, above 70, overbought, oversold below. And then with this, these can be interesting potential reversals and trend strength that you might find off the bottom here. A lot of times if you go back, if it makes it that low or very, very near to those levels, as you can see right here, let's correlate that with the dip down to these levels here. This is what we kind of dragged. And that was a bump up and then a retest below, but that was a rally as well. You're getting some tops that are also forming too. I wanted to look at the bottoms because we saw that sell off in the market, and I think that can be interesting. But that is the RSI. Now, sometimes the RSI, what traders might look for next is a move above 50. That's something that's fairly easily programmed too in ThinkScript on top of any code you might have, a move above 50. But initially getting above this base, just alone by itself, the RSI can be somewhat interesting to look at. Let's look at the chart as well here. As we look at MDT, you'll notice that with MDT, not only are you getting that signal, but off of the bottoms. What are we getting? Well, we're getting actually higher lows here too. And that can be interesting because at the same time, we're actually getting some higher highs on top. Higher highs, higher lows. We've seen this before. That's signs of a potential upward trend. When you get this in place, though, it's always interesting to kind of just look at the weekly chart because that's the 1 year. And it's kind of, it is trending up, but it's a little bit sideways too. There is your 1 year right there. I'm going to draw in some lines, just because I think it's interesting to always go back on these as well. But just big picture, low, low, and low again. Possibly an inverted head and shoulders pattern. If that were to be the case, and we get a neckline drawn right here, we take the highest point off this level down to this level, and we extend that up off of the trend line break, which occurred right there, and you might get a retracement just eyeballing it somewhere in that range right there. So, we want to look at indicators, but it's also helpful too to look at price action, particularly on the longer term scale as well. Is that trend up? All right, back to the daily here for a bit. Okay, so that's the RSI. It is coming down within a range. It's tracking the percent of changes over 14 bars. It's measuring over 14 bars. Are we seeing strength or weakness in here? One thing too, before we leave the price data and go on to our next indicator on top of this, is I wanted to focus in on maybe even a shorter term time frame. When you get this kind of activity through here, there can be a confluence of candlesticks as well. Got an engulfing pattern in there, a little bit of a doji and an inside day-to-day as well. A lot of times this means consolidation. And with that consolidation, we can come up top and just quickly look at a 5-day, well, that's a little tight. Let's go into a 30-day, 30-minute chart. That's what you're seeing. Basically a triangle pattern setting up to break out one way or the other. Now, okay, so off the top, off the bottom, before it gets to the apex of the triangle, a lot of interesting things can happen. And so you can see there's more than maybe just one sign of the RSI bouncing off. And I'm going through this because we're going to have a list of companies that are hitting off of all three indicators, shooting out of those oversold positions. Okay, but let's go ahead and go back to our daily chart. And we're going to add an additional indicator in here. One that also has been oversold, but one that is totally and completely different from the RSI. It is the MFI, Money Flow Index. We don't get the abbreviation though, so let me put it in there for you. This is the MFI right here. A quick look at the MFI before we pull it up on the chart. I'll click on it right here and just kind of read through a little bit of it. But, is it going to come up or not? That's okay. I'll just read it when it comes up. It's basically a momentum indicator that does measure the flow of money in and out of an asset. And it does that by using volume. So it's similar to the money flow index up top here, which is cumulative. This looks at it over a 14-day period. Oops, it's already failed here. But it does range. I can just we'll keep it up on the chart as I sort of explain it here to you. It ranges between 0 and 100. Let's add it in. Money Flow Index right here. And the key difference between that and which I often use with the money flow itself, let's shrink it down, expand this one up. We'll just keep all of these on as well. You can see it dipped here and went back up above, but that money flow is only measured over a short period of time. Okay, 14 days generally is typically what we're looking for. Okay, it's a 14-day period, so we're looking at money coming in, but also there is a component in there that tries to gauge, are we closing higher on the day or lower on the day? How does that money look relative to the last 14 bars? Are we starting to see maybe a change in the money flow? Individual stocks, some of them had more volume. I looked at a number of companies on the big day that came in. Wow, we had a lot of companies with very, very light volume. The price was up high, but some of them were supported by volume, and those very likely were the ones that were able to bounce off maybe those lower levels, okay, and possibly go higher. But that is the money flow, and it like I said, off the bottom, really kind of helps traders gauge the buying and selling pressure, the 20 level right here. So different from the RSI, which uses 30 and 70. Money flow uses 80 and 20. Ooh, a little bit of a delay again on my drawing tools. Don't know why. Okay, but there you go, 80 and 20. Let's look at some quick correlations. I think this is interesting to do. We had a little note on the back testing, but combining this with the RSI, I think gives us even a more interesting indication because of the fact that we're tying volume into it as well. And we're seeing some of that volume come back in as it's dipped down. So there's a variation there over those 14 days that says, hey, keep an eye on this. Okay. So last time we were down in this range, you could see right here, just looking on a 1 year, you could actually go back quite a bit further, but there's your 1 year. Clearly sort of a range off the bottom. And by the way, here are some of the tops. The top, you'll notice a topping level here, a top over here, just above where it says 14. A little bit of a dip. These can be of interest. You get a double top here and here again. We didn't quite make it down to the bottoms here, but notice when you're above these levels, they become pretty interesting. I mean, they can be interesting. I mean, more interesting for sure. Notice up top too, this one might be faster. This is what I love about multiple indications and confirmations. Because up top here, the RSI actually, wasn't in the oversold area. It was lower. Actually, that's actually showing a sign of weakness. But if somebody's just looking for, an overbought reading, if somebody's just looking for an overbought reading here, they wouldn't see it, right? We've talked about divergences in this class before, and we've actually built a script to help find divergences, but we didn't shoot up. We didn't hit a high over here. We did on the money flow. So it was a little bit of a mixed signal. I think what is interesting is when you can combine them together. Okay, it can give clearly more indications. I want to go ahead and just highlight one thing here too for everybody. Let's go ahead and let's see. Yeah, okay, here we go. Here is our play. I'm going to show you where that divergence script is if you want to take a look at that. It's built in a little bit of a different fashion, but it can be pretty effective over longer term time frames. Here is the ThinkScript class. Last week too, we talked about candlesticks. Interesting looking at price data. It turns out that what we were looking at, that engulfing pattern, did kind of hold some support within the markets, but we had one down here. The 3 new volume indicators, we went into detail on this with divergence. And so you can find that in there as well. That was actually back in March, just as a heads up. But because we did get a volume indication on the chart here coming up. Yeah, with that big spike as well. We did not look at, we might have used money flow in that class. I know we used the money flow index. I know we used money flow. All right, so this is interesting. So we got up here, we've got really price momentum for short, and then down here is just volume. There we go. So volume as well. 2 interesting indications that are coming off of oversold levels. Let's add in the next one. Okay. All right, and we'll go from there and see what we've got. Absolutely. This one, we do have a link for, and I will share that in the chat. In fact, I will put the link out so that you can, yeah, in case you want to, view the class again or you didn't catch the link, it'll be under the description section under YouTube as well. By the way, as I just look at the chat too, hello to all of you just joining us. Great to have you here. There is a survey link in the chat. If you're able to fill that out, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, if there's anything you find helpful, whatever the case might be, just let us know in there. There's only 2 questions. You got to click on it during the session, though. So just keep that in mind, and let's go forward here. I think, yeah, James has got us all caught up, I believe, and we're looking good. All right. Oh, let's see, just one thing here. Okay. Yeah, we can look at, I think combining the two, I think it's a great point that Probability Trader brings up in terms of the market. That's one of the reasons why I do love to go through the market, is because when we look at the market, it gives us a sense of what's happening collectively with all 500 companies. And like that class we did last week where we looked at engulfing pattern on the market, I mean, we kind of held that level. And we have, of course, there was an announcement on the pause on reciprocal tariffs with every country out there except for China that really helped us get going. But those are indications that I think are really interesting, because if the market shows weakness, it can bleed over into stocks. And you see that even with MDT over here. All right. Well, let's go up top. Let's hit another indicator I want to pull up, folks. Let's look at the CCI. It's just different. It's a different calculation behind it. The question is, will it show it when I click on this right here? And it does. Excellent. Okay, so the CCI expresses variation of securities price based on a statistical mean. So it's looking at historical data, which is exactly what the RSI isn't doing to this extent. But it's the historical total data of the range. It says using the CCI can help you to identify excess buying and selling pressure when it crosses above or below. And so the minus 100 is the lower range level. And then you've got an upper range level above 100. So we also have on this too, it's an oscillator that has oversold and overbought readings on it as well. The other thing, let's see if I can get this to come up here. Yeah, just one quick note on the CCI too. The math behind the CCI, is it going to give us some of them, there are more details. Let me just see if it shows it. Oh, whoops, it's going somewhere else, taking us another place. That's okay, taking us to education. I'll tell you what, we're going to try to close this now and cancel it and go back to our charts and pull it back up again. But one of the cool things about the CCI, the math that it uses, it compares the asset's current price. So it's looking at the current price to the historical average. From that, it gives us a statistical read, like say, for example, what's the standard deviations off of the lower level? And that's where it looks for in terms of over here, 1, 2, 3. That is the statistical variation off that bottom. So we come down below actually 200 and then back up to 1 up top here above the minus 100. And that's that lower range where oftentimes, not every time, but you can also get a bounce off that level. Again, totally different from the RSI, totally different from the money flow. We've got the CCI that looks over a different range, and it can be actually at different times much, much faster. Faster is not always better. Therefore, we're using additional sort of confirmations up here, RSI and the money flow index in terms of a volume read. But notice over here, let's go ahead now and kind of go through and take a look just even over the past 1 year, what we've got in terms of these moves. So here is a bounce here. Oh, gosh, kind of weaved over there, but you get a sense off of the bottom. It wasn't the first time we had the bottom, but it was also correlated by other dips lower here, okay? And, reading these highs, the top points, the low points, they can be interesting, but what traders are really focused in on is not so much the dip, it's the recovery and the break above the minus 100. Now, this one we're just getting today. The scan we've developed that we're going to be looking at specifically, this scan is unique because it gives it some flexibility over the time frame for each one of these oversold conditions to break outside of that range heading higher. This one you can see over here. In fact, let's clear this off. Zoom in on a little bit more. We just broke above today. Just barely today inside that inside day on MDT. Okay. So just there. Now up top here, we did break above these two, MFI, RSI, you can see 3 days ago. And that's exactly what the script I've got sets up for. It was a 3-day ago move. In fact, the RSI is a little bit tricky. Let me show you the third day though, as we zoom in on this right here. I'm going to use the tools over here. So, okay, so before the pause on the reciprocal tariffs came in, notice we were below, and then boom, we bounced above right there. Okay, so although that was a big move on the RSI and there was a big move in price, it had the biggest move of all because it's looking specifically at price itself. You can see the move comes up. That was 3 days ago. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The way we've got this indicator set, and I think this is really what you have to do when you have different sorts of indicators. If you're setting anything up in ThinkScript, you want to give it that range. And so really anything between a 1 and a 3-day time frame, anything within there, 1, 2, or 3, to get that set up. But at least they all would have had to have done it and hold above that level over that third day. Okay, let's go ahead and pull up the scan. In fact, I'll just share it right off the top too for you guys. So we've got it. Okay, that's not it. Let's see, what was this one? Oh, that's right. Okay, that was something else we built. All right, let's go over here. Boom, boom. And we're going to load this guy up, and it's just our triple indicator off the bottom here. Let me see, I might have to twist my head a little bit to find it. Let's see here. Where are you? Normally I'll have it loaded, but I had to jump on a different computer here to get it going. These are all of them ones I've got we've been building up recently. But hang on a second. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know why. I might have to send it over. Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know what happened to it exactly. What I'll do is I have the computer I'm on. They did give me a newer computer that I had to use. And so I'm just trying to find it, but it is under the scan. Yeah, it's all set up. So we're going to scan into the S&P 500. Sorry about that. That was unexpected. It saved under the exact same Thinkorswim code. So I have not had that happen before. How bizarre. Give me just a second. I might have to just save the code and send it over to myself, which is not a problem. Oh, okay, yeah. So, okay, so it'll log you out. And so this is, you guys have probably run into this. Sometimes it's quick and sometimes it's not when you're diving into a different one, a different screen here. But let's just see here. Okay, there it is. Okay, it's there now. Okay, finally. All right. I'm not going to take a chance just in case. Okay. Okay, bingo, we got it. All right. Last sign in, we'll have it up. Okay, coming up right now. Here we go. We'll pull it up and we'll explain. We'll go into the code as well. I'm going to close this app and we should be good. Okay, good. Here it is. Now, okay. Scan tab. And what we'll do is we'll kill this one and we'll pull it up right now. All right. Thanks for your patience, all. Triple indicator cross. Well, let's go ahead and share it right now up top so we've got it. Dang, I've never run into that before. So sorry it happened during this session. But folks, we're going to share it and get it going right now. In fact, we'll just go like this up top here and share the scan query. Boom. So one quick note on these Think scripts is always be mindful that they're not guaranteed for timeliness or accuracy. There it is right there. I'll put that in down here. See. Okay. Very good. There it is. Okay. Let's go ahead and run it though, and then we'll go through it. I've got it listed on the S&P 500. We'll pull it up. We'll look at some. MDT was one of those that came up in the list. We had about 40. The reason why we got 40 is we had a big dip in the market. There's 43 now. So it's a little bit more. We had a big dip in the market, and then we rallied back up sharply. That is, I think, one of the key reasons why we have 40. In a lot of cases, you might only get just a handful of these, but we're getting a lot right now. And again, like we said, we like to build these around market conditions to give us a lot to look at. Where is MDT's right here? I just grabbed a couple to look at. I want to look at another one as well with you and go through it in more detail. Let's look at the code as well and sort of we'll go through the process of explaining some of the details behind it, what's going on with it. Okay, we'll pull it up here. All right, so I just have a triple indicator crossing from oversold. It is a scan, so it's in the scan tab. And so with that link I just sent out, remember you got to go into the setup and then application settings, open application settings, and then you want to put that in, save it to a name you want, and then you can pull it up in the scan tab is where you'd find it as well. First things first, when we're creating this code, we always want to put in exactly what we're looking for. I think technically I could have done this too on the condition wizard, but there are a few different things I wanted to reference in here. Just some of the general characteristics, the time frames, RSI, MFI, and others in here that we could look at. I actually had a couple of these. I did the stochastic one. This is a stochastic. That's fine. We'll use the stochastic. I looked at the CCI as well. You guys are going to get another one in here. So I had the stochastic crossover as well as the CCI on when I was looking at both of those, and those are interesting. I think you're getting a little bit more hits with the stochastic cross than the other one. I'll have both of them saved though. I was kind of trying to get completely different indications so we get different reference points off of coming off that bottom. Okay, so one of the things we talked about the past couple of weeks, or probably about a month ago, we went into it more detail, was this the fold technique that we've got. And the fold itself, right, as we go through folding conditions, right, what we're really looking to do is going back over a time frame. That's what we're looking at, like 1 to 3 days. There are a few ways to do it. I'm trying to get in the habit of using fold because there's more you can do with it than meets the eye if we were just using the condition wizard. For example, we've got basically what we're doing here is we're just looking at any bar and saying if any bar satisfies the condition of between 1 and 3 bars. In other words, if it turns 1 and stays 1 for the rest of the folding period. And I kind of dove into the code that we have for this, and there's some new details on it, but this will kind of help give you a little bit of a model of some things to look at and to utilize here. Um, yeah, so this, by the way, J is the number of, it's just bars ago, the J fold. So you're looking at bars ago. I just use J in here. You can use anything you want, but you've got J. You can use that and you're saying, hey, how many bars ago? And basically, if we find a match, if it stays 0 or if we don't, if we can hold above 1, then it's saying that the condition remains. And so it's very straightforward. I'm going to flip this over, though, into the stochastic so you can see it actually a little bit different on the chart. I was playing between those two, but that was the change I actually made at the end, was the CCI from the stochastic. And we've got to go ahead and just get all these back up again. So let's just do that, because there's another one I wanted to pull up here to take a look at. Oh, sorry. Let's just go RSI. We'll go money. This is not MFI, by the way. You've got to type in everything, or money flow index. And then we will use the standard stochastic. Just the stochastic full or the stochastic fast. It should be either, let's see, I just have the stochastic. Yeah, this is going to do it right here. So breaking above that lower level, it's not the crossover line here. It's the main stochastic line that you're getting with breaking above that level, and you get 1, 2, 3 right there. This one also had the CCI. So technically, if I would have had 4 crossovers, we would have gotten all 4 of them. Let's go to another one that was on the list right here. Let's do this. Yeah. Let's go over here and, oh, okay, MOS. So here we are with Mosaic, a commodity company. So a few things we've got was, we're looking at this, and this, I think all of them hit within 3 days here over the time frames we've got this. So we've got this low dip. It's got to dip below the oversold and then come up above it, because that's where oftentimes, not in every case, of course, and not every indicator is perfect, but this can be a reference point. Some will be faster than others, and some of them you might get a double dip point. But the point is that we're all getting that move around that range. And then from that point on, okay, so check, 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 all the way down. So you're getting that break. And now what we want to do is just take a look at the chart itself and say what's been happening with commodities, right? This is a commodity. This is actually a company that provides commodities for commodities. It's in the list here, but kind of a double bottom. Now there is earnings. We had past earnings on MDT, but there's your earnings right there. Okay. There is a previous high range up top here, and this is a low range. And so it kind of gives us a sense of where we might be at. One of the things that's always helpful to do here too is just look at the weekly chart, because we're getting an interesting scenario perhaps on the bottom, on the daily chart towards the bottom with a low pattern. But then look at what you got over here. It's been down for some time. The commodities here. One of the things you could look at with commodities that ties into this is actually, I'm just going to pull up the index of it. It's just the DXY, which is the US dollar index. When you see the dollar dip, there tends to be inverse correlation. Basically, a lower dollar can really help to stimulate commodity prices, even more asset prices in general, but maybe even commodities more specifically. We did break a low over here too. So it's interesting to see what might be happening there as we extend out. Oop, it's not $ MOS, it's just MOS right there. Okay, so here is that setup right here with MOS. And so really what I think could be fascinating with a company like this that has had this long downward move. The one thing we really haven't been able to do, folks, in the longest time, it's back to 2022, even if it happens on a short-term scale, you know what we haven't been able to do? Break the highs. It's just lower lows and lower highs for a very long time. We wouldn't have been able to see this without, an indicator like this that spots those a triple move above an oversold condition. So that's how we found it. There are others in here. I encourage you to take a look and throw those in. And of course, you can use other indicators in the same fold capacity that we wrote that out in. Yeah, and Michelle, yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that is helpful to get more of that information. I was going to spend a little bit more time on that, but I was getting this search pulled up. Um, let's see. Let's see. So the first scan, yes, it is the CCI. Now, some of you, if you want to experiment with this too, you can start off a little bit smaller. The code's a little bit different. The script I shared was this script right here, by the way. The questions coming into the chat, it was this one with the stochastic. I will have, if you guys want to take a look a little bit later, I'll have the CCI in there. I'll have both in there, okay? I'll have this one, and then I'll have the CCI as well. Okay, and I'll make it a distinction. That'll be in the description section, so you can get that code for it. What I wanted to show though over here is if we were going to go back into the scan tab, you can experiment too. This is something I was doing a little while ago, a few months ago actually. If I'm going to go into a study here, I'm going to go ahead and just go into another study. Let me show you some things that you can do as long as you know the areas for the crossover. You need to know the valuations, or the value, I should say. Say, for example, if we want to do a condition wizard, we could add condition here. Still doable in this capacity here. We're going to be looking at the study though. It's just a straight study here. We'll show you RSI, and the RSI is going to be crossing above a value. Okay, the value is going to be 30 is one way to do this. And we could say within the last 3 days. This effectively does something similar to what I've got. Okay, but it doesn't, I think it's easy. Once you have the code, it's somewhat easier as opposed to just going through here and having them all set up, but you could still build it perhaps this way. RSI crosses above 30 within the last 3 bars. This number does vary though, and you have to be familiar with what that's going to be for the oversold condition, but that is an approach that can be used here. Let's look at some other ones here. Okay, so I'm just going to show you like a general script could be built in that fashion. All right, so we have in here, that is DuPont. See, the chemicals have really been hit. I bet DuPont's been hit as well too. The dollar's been strong. Let's see, DuPont. Oh yeah, DuPont's in here, but you can see that a little bit different story, a little bit a bigger breakdown here. Actually, that's a major gap. When you get that low in a gap, it could be interesting. I mean, it could be very difficult to get above. We're getting our signal, but some traders might look for something a little bit shorter, like a shorter term time frame here. Maybe not quite the extent of, let's say, an MDT, a Medtronic that might have a trend to the upside. I mean, they might consider the trend as well. So just the strength of it. But yeah, short term, it is showing that. You can see it's kind of bundling up. Very, very likely, as we discussed, that we're probably seeing something similar here, folks, to a triangle type pattern. Do you see it? A compression of price compression. Something like perhaps there's a shoulder, head, shoulder right there as well. It's a form of a compression, right? Inverted head and shoulders pattern. So these are really interesting to look at on an intraday time frame as well. Big bounces over here already on the intraday. Of course, we're on a 30-minute chart. But yeah, use all the tools at your disposal here. I was going to say one thing that you could add to this that we talked previously about several times was actually the TTM squeeze. We did the reloaded, right? Days past when the TTM had ended, and then of course building up to the TTM squeeze, the tightening, the compression of prices as well. That could be also tied in, but these indicators are interesting. You don't get this all the time, especially, I'm in a daily chart here, and but under certain market conditions like this, you may in fact get that when you get the big pullback here. And we actually got it here on the market too. It looks like, yeah. Although, we don't have a reference on the MFI. All right, everybody. Well, hey, there is a survey link in the chat. You should have all gotten that script. I sent it through. Make use out of it. Take a look at it and see what shows up in terms of, maybe extreme lows with further indications than just a single indicator happening within a couple, 2-3 days, right? So keep eyes on that, folks. Be sure and hit the like button if you like it. Bottom right hand corner of the screen, subscribe. Love to have you on board if you're not already. We'll continue to do more deep dives into indicators that kind of set up in current market conditions, whatever those conditions may be. We'll continue to look at it to give you guys some more ideas on how to break down specific stocks, find them through scans like you can do today on this one, and then ideas on how to do it yourself for the ThinkScripting tools. So on that, great to be with you, folks. Have a fantastic weekend. You made it. It's Friday. You made it to the week. Very volatile week, crazy week in a lot of ways, but all right. Hey, thanks so much, James, for your help. As always, great job in the chat. Everybody, take care. We'll see you next time.